What is going on, everyone? Hope you're having a nice Dead by Daylight. I know I sure am. And Behavior just dropped some new stats for us to look at, some new statistics that they've collected since the new patch drop. I'm assuming 6.1.0 in review, which is super cool. I've already looked at it once, but I'm gonna look over it right now again, and I'm gonna talk about it. So let's take a look together. This past July, we released quite possibly the largest balance update yet, when we changed 40 perks, including the existing meta. At the time, we briefly introduced and later re-debuted matchmaking incentives, which reward players for switching to whichever role is needed at the time. With so many changes at once, the dust is still not quite settled, but we're starting to get a picture on how the game will look moving forward. It's been a little over a month since the update went live, so we want to shed some light on the impact that the 6.1.0 update had on the game. Before we dive in, we want to remind you that these numbers are still changing each day. The numbers we share in this post will likely be obsolete within a few months, blah, 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 blah. All right, let's look at some stats. So first, looking at this picture, the average kill rate, I'm just going to read the thing down here, actually. It's probably going to explain, we're just going to talk about the picture a little bit better. Let's just read this. In Dead by Daylight, the killer should strike fear into the survivors. Part of this comes from being a big, scary-looking monster. Yeah. Before the 6.1.0 update, we found killers to be a little lacking. As a result, we introduced several changes to improve killer quality of life and make them more deadly. Beyond that, we made significant changes to many of the most and least used killer perks. The result of these changes, the average kill rate percentage of all survivors killed, rose by about 8%. This leaves killers on average within a range that we're comfortable with, making them deadly but not oppressive. More significantly, the variety of perks being used saw huge improvements. The previously used perks, barbecue and chili, went from being used in 40% of all killer loadouts to only 17%. Jolt, meanwhile, climbed from 13% usage to 19%. Scourge Hook Pain Resonance dropped slightly, going from 20% to 17%, just barely beating out barbecue and chili for the number 2 spot. Other top 10 most used killer perks include Sloppy Butcher, Save the Best for Last, Overcharge, Thanatophobia, Call of Brine, Noed, and Corrupt Intervention. Let's talk about the kill rates first. Two things. First, I'm most interested in how much of that kill rate is people giving up, people killing themselves on first hook or something. I really wonder if they have the stats for how many people die on first hook, and I think it's safe to assume that 95% of the people dying on first hook are people who are giving up. They go down, they just give up and kill themselves, because not everyone DCs. Let's be real here. If someone wants to not play a match but they want to keep playing, they're not going to DC. They're just going to kill themselves on first hook. It's the easiest way to get around the DC penalty. To be honest, I still don't know why there's not I don't know. This would be hard to implement, but why there's not a thing where if you get hooked and immediately kill yourself, you receive the same penalty as a DC penalty. I don't. Is there I know that's hard to identify, but still kind of shitty that you can get around the DC penalty that way. I'm really interested if they have those kind of statistics behind people dying on first hook versus people dying on later hooks, and assuming people giving up and all that kind of stuff, how that would affect the kill rate in that way. I'm also interested if they have these stats. I'm assuming they have all kinds of stats. I'm most interested in kill rates versus kill and survival rates versus survivors that are solo queue and survivors that are partied together. I'm really, really interested in how the deviation is there. It's safe to assume that if survivors are partied, if a solo queue player versus a 4-stack, 4 solos versus 4 grouped up players, the kill rate is going to be there's going to be such a disparity there. But I'm wondering how big the disparity is. If it's still huge, if it's still really, really massive, or if it's slightly better now. I'm definitely interested in that. Either way, though, the game definitely needs to be improved for solo queue players regardless. But I'm interested to see if they are looking at those stats and kind of taking note of that, and they just aren't like talking about it here. But I'm assuming they got those kinds of stats. Perks. Definitely interesting to see barbecue and chili in a third spot, at least for me. Maybe I just haven't noticed it that much in my games when I'm playing Survivor, but I feel like I haven't seen it all that much. Yeah, I don't really run barbecue too much. I run it on aggressive killers still, like Blight and Hillbilly. People that can get around the map really fast. I'll still run it on them, but I feel like it's not as good anymore. I mean, obviously, I ran it mostly for the blood points. So I feel like it's kind of not... It's not really that useful on a lot of killers, I feel like. Killers that like can't get around the map very easily, it's obviously not going to be that useful on them, but it still gives you a lot of information. Jolt, don't touch my fucking baby, I swear to God. I think Jolt is totally fine. I think it's just a really, really good perk. I think it's like the one regression perk I like using these days. I'm not a big fan of the other ones for varying reasons, whether they just don't fit my playstyle or I just think they're kind of stupid, like Scourge Hook. We'll talk about that in a second. But Surge, Jolt, whatever you want to call it, don't touch it. Don't leave it alone. It's my love. It's my literal child. Just stop. I've been using it forever now, even before people, before everyone here started using it, before people thought it was good. I love that perk. It's like one of my favorite perks in the game. Don't do anything to it. Just leave it be. But yeah, obviously it's a good perk, so it's going to get used. So it makes sense that it's kind of at the top. Scourge Hook Pain Resonance. It's in 17% of killer loadouts. You could fool me. I feel like it's in every single one of my fucking games, basically, when I'm playing Survivor. But maybe that's just confirmation bias. I'm, only remembering the games where I have to play against it. I think Scourge Hook Pain Rens is just, it's too strong, dude. First of all, I mean, I ranted about this a while ago, so I'm not going to, like, beat the dead horse too much. But I'm still very upset they brought back the Pain Res DMS combo. Just because they were so afraid of Pain Resonance and Merciless Storm, which happened literally, like, barely ever versus Pain Resonance Deadman Switch, which happens, all the time. Obviously, I know, you can let go of the gen. There's plenty of ways to counterplay it, but I don't know. I think it's an obnoxious combo. I think my annoyance of the combo comes from Deadman Switch. That's a conversation for another day. Which, by the way, I'm surprised that Deadman Switch isn't in the top 10 over here. That's very interesting. But yeah, I think Scourge Hook Pain Resonance is just too strong. It gives you a lot of regression really quickly. If you look at other regression perks, Surge, for example, Surge has no cooldown. You have to down a survivor, obviously. The two downsides of Surge is that you have to actually down someone, and you have to be within a certain area. You can't always control where the regression happens. If a gen is like 80%, 90% done, but it's across the map and you down someone like super far away from it, it doesn't matter. The gen's getting done. There's nothing you can do about it. Surge isn't going to help you there. Scourge Hook, on the other hand, though, I mean, it obviously you have to down a survivor for it, though, but you can regress shit from across the map. I don't know. I think the time efficiency of Scourge Hook Pain Res for how much regression it gives you is just too strong. I'd like to see them nerf the regression just a little bit. But we can go on about this, but I don't want to spend the entire video talking about it. Other perks, I'm still interested that Corrupt Intervention is up there. I mean, I guess it's good on setup killers. So that makes sense. I haven't used it at all since the patch dropped. Actually, I still use it on Myers. I just haven't played Myers in a bit. But yeah, I'll still use it on Myers, I think. Actually, I'm not sure. Have I taken it off of him? I have no idea. But he's like the only killer I can think of that I actually play that I'd use it on, because I'm not a big fan of like the slower setup killers like Hag and Trapper. Thanatophobia still being there is like whack to me, dude. I mean, the only logic I have for the Thanatophobia being there is the fact that Legion is one of the most popular killers in the game, and people are still probably running Thanatophobia on Legion, which is very fair. Thanatophobia change was terrible. It literally just kept it about the same-ish for the killers that were still really good using it, and literally prevented any other killer from using it. So I'd like to see them rework Thanatophobia. I mean, it's really stupid that this perk is basically gated behind 2 killers, the only 2 killers, like 2.5 killers, I'd say. The only 2.5 killers I can really make use of it, that being Plague, Legion, and like a really fucking good nurse, but really good nurses are using other perks, so that they're not caring about Thanatophobia, really. Otherwise, everything else here makes sense. Noed still being up here hopefully shows behavior that they really didn't nerf that perk. Noed, in comparison to some other killer perks, definitely got kind of like a slap on the wrist more when it should have gotten a knife in the gut, in my opinion, because I hate that perk. I hate anything about it. But you know, it's the way it is. It's still very, very good. Still does exactly what it needs to do, basically. So people are still gonna run it. So that's why it's still up there. I'm interested to see how it placed, like if its usage rate has gone down a little bit since the last patch, though. I'm sure it has. Let's move on to Survivor. We've spent a lot of time talking already. Survivor saw similar results following the 6.1.0 update. The previously most used perk, Dead Hard, fell from 42% usage to 19%, make it the second most used perk. Meanwhile, Self-Care remained a popular choice in some regions but not others, securing it the first place spot at 21% usage. A new contender entered the fray, with windows of opportunity shooting up by 18% usage. Other top 10 Survivor perks include Lithe, Prove Thyself, Sprint Burst, Circle of Healing, Borrowed Time, Adrenaline, Spine Chill. Dude, why? Now, I know there's a tome challenge for Self-Care right now, but even so, I would still think, even without that tome challenge, part of me is still suspect of the fact that Self-Care would still be top 3, and that's just so sickening to me. Maybe I'll feign a little bit of ignorance and hoping people they're running Self-Care alongside Botany Knowledge, which makes it at least tolerable of a self-heal. But blowing 2 perk slots for only healing yourself at like a mediocre amount of speed is really not good. If you're gonna if you want to self-heal yourself, dude, run Circle of Healing. Literally just run Circle of Healing. I understand Claudette is a character. She's a free character. She's one of the free characters you come with. If you're really concerned about self-healing, if that's like your thing, take a med kit or spend your first 9,000 iridescent shards on Michaela, dude. Like, Circle of Healing is self-care, but literally 10 times better. Yes, you got to find a totem for it, but you're giving healing speed to your team and you're healing yourself at least half of the speed and not like a fourth of the speed. And if you combine it with Botany Knowledge, you literally heal yourself at normal healing speed, which is so crazy to me. And you'll also be healing your teammates faster. It's a good kind of team player build. One of my favorite combinations. I've been running Circle of Healing and Botany so much recently. But it's just so crazy to me that people are still running Self-Care. You could probably make Self-Care a 1% healing rate and people would still run that fucking perk, dude. It boggles my mind. I don't even know how you change it. Because right now, like, the perk is bad. It's objectively a bad perk. It's terrible for time efficiency, but people are still going to run it. And in many ways, all it's doing really is, once again, coming back to solo queue. It feels like it's probably really just hurting solo queue players because you're going to queue up by yourself and some whacked out player on your team is going to be running nothing but Self-Care, or, you know, like, that's going to be their only healing perk. They're not running it with like Botany or Desperate Measures or some shit, and they're going to spend like an entire generator healing in the corner, and that's just so stupid. But, you know, we can talk about it all day and beat the dead horse if we want to, but we got to talk about some other things. A lot of the top perks are still kind of the same, admittedly, honestly. I mean, like, what really kind of fell from grace? DS, maybe? DS Dead Hard definitely took the biggest hit, but it's still in the top 3. You know, it's still kind of like the same perks. You got Dead Hard, Self-Care is still up there for some reason. Circle of Healing still up there. Adrenaline's up there. Borrowed Time still up there. Hell, Spine Chill's still up there. Spine Chill was one of the most popular perks before the patch. Still is, I guess. Still in the top 10. Not that that's a problem. But really, like, I do think The diversity is better. I will say this. I do think that, because I mean, when Dead Hard is no longer, occupying 42% of people's one slot for 42% of survivors, it's like a good thing. The diversity here is better, but I do think it's kind of funny that, they came in with the idea of changing the meta. And really both of the killer and survivor meta is somewhat the same, to be honest. It's still killer meta, still just regression install perks. Survivor meta is still, mostly exhaustion and self-preservation type stuff, Obviously, like I said, though, they've kind of lowered the peaks and the valleys, it's come down a little bit. I would say things are spread out more. It's not all focused on like one group of perks. But I'd really be interested to see them do like a patch like this again. Like I think everyone agrees with that. It would be awesome for them to do another patch like this in the future and see how they change other perks and switch things up again. Because this patch has been very good. I want to say, like, overall, I love what's going on with the past few patches for DBD. But yeah, it's interesting to me that the meta, I mean, the top 10 perks have mostly stayed the same pretty much. I don't know if there's anything else I really want to talk about too much out of the perks here. Windows is great, so it's no surprise to see it up there. I really hope they don't nerf it. It's really not like an OP perk. It's just really, really good, and especially good for solo queue players. So that's all fun stuff. Again, we already talked about this survival rate or escape rate, 39%, previously 47%. Once again, I'd like to see the comparison of solo queue escape rate versus people who are grouped up, and all that kind of stuff, and comparing it with people who are very obviously, giving up and killing themselves on first hook. But we've talked about that already. Queue times, they've gotten better across the board for, that's what this is saying. Previously 59 seconds, previously 91 seconds average queue time. Average killer queue time on launch day was 240 seconds faster, up to 40 seconds faster, whatever. That's cool stuff. The queue times did get better. I know some people have had some pretty tough killer queues, and killer queues in general have gotten slightly worse, but I think it's averaged out to just be better queue times overall. But that's just my opinion. We won't talk about this too much. I'm really just here for the balance statistics. Anyways, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to drop a like, subscribe, all that stuff supports the channel and encourages me to make more videos. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.